Hello and welcome to another episode of Laptop Retrospective. This is Think Design Stories. In this series, we will be going behind the scenes on one of the most iconic laptop brands ever conceived and is still going strong. Today I am joined by David Hill, who started with IBM in 1985 and was with them until May 2005 when the IBM ThinkPad division was purchased by Lenovo. Since then, David has held several positions between those two companies, including the Executive Director of Design, the Vice President of Corporate Identity and Design, and the Chief Design Officer and Vice President of Experience Design. When it comes to ThinkPads, there are few people that know more than he does. For today's video, we are going to be discussing the art of chamfering. Chamfering is, generally speaking, a term that comes from woodworking, which you can see demonstrated here by More Fun Making It. He has a fantastic channel where he builds all sorts of things. Highly recommend it. The art of chamfering is essentially to cut away a right-angled edge to make a symmetrical sloping edge. Now, these edges can have different functions, as David Hill will discuss, but ultimately what it can do is create the illusion of an object that is not as slim as it might initially appear. This, of course, had marketing appeal, and ThinkPad was certainly willing to capitalize upon it.
That really started with the ThinkPad 600. So this is not a new topic of discussion in the development of ThinkPad, but marketing was always wanting a ThinkPad to be thinner. Well, of course, who wouldn't want their ThinkPad to be thinner as long as it, still worked? I mean, it's kind of an obvious statement. We want this to be 10 millimeters thinner than last year, and development would work. They come back with 5, and marketing would be like, "All right, we got 5," and then they'd start it all over every year. And the original ThinkPads were very square. They had very little contouring, mainly because the box was so perfectly packed that you couldn't, and everything was very rectangular and fit in it like a bento box. Everything was modular, the battery, the hard file. You could take all these pieces out. It was brilliant. The keyboard hinged up and you could get to it, and it was amazing. But very, very boxy. And then it was also a trend in some of these machines, like this 770. We used to call it the New York City phone book. It was huge. It was, I don't know, it must have been 70 millimeters thick. And so we were always looking for, good grief, that thing looks humongous. The 600 was very sophisticated looking at the time, and I don't remember how thick it was, but by today's standards, it's like 3 times as thick as an X1 Carbon, probably. But I had this idea that, well, what if we could chamfer like the front edge of it, put a bevel on the front of it? And this really came to my mind from a stereo system that Dieter Rams designed in the, I think, 1980s. And it was also marketed in, I think, Canada and the United States under the brand ADS. And it had a very sophisticated kind of wide aspect ratio to the electronics enclosures, and had a chamfer top and bottom. So when you stacked them, they looked kind of cool, and it made them look thinner than what they really were. And I thought, well, there's an idea. Maybe we can chamfer the bottom front edge, and it will look thinner, and the marketing guys will be happy. And oh, by the way, it's a little easier to pick it up because you could put your hand under it and pick it up. And so we started doing this on the 600, and it was kind of a big deal because it just that very simple change to the form made you feel differently about it. And obviously, over the years, there's been a lot more sculpting and such of the bottoms of ThinkPads to create this sort of illusion of being thinner. I think, to be honest, at this point, you're almost to the point where you don't even need to have an illusion. So, I don't know, when you get something that's 10 millimeters thick, maybe that'll just be a square. Uh, but anyway, at the time, it was a new idea, and it had a lot of traction.
One example that I've got here is the X220. Very, very
Yeah.
subtle.
Yep.
But like you said, really, really easy to hold, and
Yeah.
still lots of purpose of what you put in here. In this model, they put the speakers here, I think,
Yes.
and I think a Bluetooth card. So
Right.
it's space not wasted.
It also, this is just another little detail, but if you put the chamfer side down and you put it in your your carrying case, it went in easier.
Yeah.
Because it was slightly tapered. And some of those things are things you just sort of discover after you've done it. And some of them you did intentionally. You know, some design is discovered. You don't always think of everything when you did it, but you might think of it afterwards. Say, hey, here's another benefit I didn't think about. And that was one of them. The ThinkPads had that design detail for many years, and they still do to a degree of this chamfering. I think it's fitting because the ThinkPad's kind of an angular, rectangular sort of design. It's not a rounded, swoopy design, which, by the way, would make your computer bigger because everything inside of it is square.
True.
So, my favorite example of that is the thing that Apple made, the what do they call it, the iBook. It had the nickname of the toilet seat.
That's right.
Yes.
It was the weirdest shape.
Yes, and it was unbelievable. I mean, when that thing came out, I literally couldn't believe it, and I called Richard Sapper on the phone to tell him, "Have you seen this thing?" And I don't remember. I think his wife Dorrit answered the phone. She said, "Just a second, I'll get him." And he comes to the phone. He says, "Oh, David, I'm so glad you called. Have you seen this computer?" I said, "That's what I'm calling you about." He said, "It is horrendous." It was so funny. That thing only lasted like a year. Yeah. It was horrible. But you just looked at that thing, and it's a ton of wasted space. Just a ton. I mean, everything inside of the laptop is square. The display is square. It's square. So, you know, if you round it all up, you've added a whole bunch of material to it.
Yeah.
Now, where everybody is trying to make their display border super thin. So the ability to make a crazy looking computer that's all, you know, looks like a pile of pudding is sort of over. They would really look like a dinosaur.